In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the raddest vehicles in the world of 90s action figures. So, stick around. Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode, we will be talking about some of the raddest rides in 90s action figures. Now, just like the 80s, the 90s action figure vehicles, it's a list that seems to stretch forever. Honestly, I'm not even done compiling my research of all the toys out there in the 90s, and the action figure vehicle section that I have is already at close to 400, and I'm not even done yet. It's amazing. Action figure vehicles were like a badge of honor for a toy line to reach. I mean, some of them hit the ground running and threw some out there, some worked up to it, and built upon the few offerings they had when the toy line launched. Now, let me just say, what I mean by action figure vehicles are vehicles that are specifically made for an action figure or PVC figure or another type of figure to be placed within it. Sometimes on top of it, depending on how it's piloted, but you know what I mean. Now, there's plenty of other awesome vehicles out there in the world of pullback toys, die-cast toys, RC cars, what have you. Those aren't what we will be covering in the Raddest Rides list. One day, sometime in the future, hopefully, we'll get to those as well. But for now, we are just specifically looking at the ones that were made for your action figures to sit in, to pilot, to ride, to do what have you. So anyway, enough of that. Let's get to number one on the list. Before we even start, the stupid spin cycle has to kick on. Anyway, I apologize that I have to multitask and do laundry at the same time that I film. Anyway, it's slowing down, so let's get to number one, which is a toy line that was based on a motion picture that was released in 1995. Honestly, I don't think the movie did very well, and that made the toy line suffer, which wasn't really a big loss. Anyway, this is Kenner's Congo line. Anyway, the Congo movie was based on a book by Michael Crichton, and they had a very limited selection of toys, but within those they had a few vehicles. This vehicle was the Trail Hacker, and what the Trail Hacker was, I mean, it's pretty much a standard ATV with extra features like a fold down stretcher and like a grappling gun hook on the back. All in all, I think this ATV would fit perfectly within your G.I. Joe Playtime universe or any other 3 3/4 figure. I mean, this would be a great search and rescue vehicle for any of the medics on your Joe team because of the stretcher. And it has like a, that grappling hook, which could be used for practically any awesome adventure. And the front of the ATV has a really neat detail of like a strapped down camouflaged tarp. So that just kind of adds to the awesome Playtime universe that you could create with this, adding it into the mix of your G.I. Joe or any of your other military-based 3 3/4 figures. I mean, it's a very simplistic vehicle, but there's a lot of things going for it, so I kind of like it, and I could see a lot of Playtime potential for it. Our next radical vehicle comes from a commercial. that soon gave way to a cartoon series. And believe me, at the time, this was sailing under my radar, but looking back at it now, I think these are pretty awesome, and I kind of regret missing out on them. Anyway, these are the incredible Crash Dummies, or Crash Test Dummies, released by Tyco in 1993. Now, 93, I was in high school, so this was kiddie stuff. I wasn't going to waste my time on it. You know, I was collecting comic book figures and, McFarlane figures and stuff like that. Anyway, this is the Crash and Dash Chopper, and it is a motorcycle with sidecar. First things first, I want to point out how great this packaging looks. The artwork is beautiful. I love the colors, they really stand out, and they're really vibrant. Anyway, the whole aspect of the Crash Test Dummy toys was that they could be broken. I mean, the whole point of them was to be crashed and broken up and put back together. I could definitely see the appeal of that for little kids. I mean, they're breaking toys that don't go back together very easily anyway, so you might as well make something that they can bust the crap out of and quickly fix. With this Crash and Dash Chopper, you get a motorcycle with a sidecar, like I said. So it looks like it can hold 3 different figures sold separately, of course. It comes with 2 helmets, and it has different action features, such as a spring-loaded seat that'll pop up when you crash, a break-apart windshield, handlebars, front tire, the sidecar will go breaking off. I mean, the whole thing ends up in pieces, and you put it back together. Again, like I said, this is an ideal situation for little kids. I mean, they love crashing toys as it is. Make a toy that's specifically made for crashing and can teach them a valuable lesson about buckling their safety belts at the same time. Speaking of safety belts, buckle up, because we're going to take a look at the original commercial for the Crash and Dash Chopper. So, here we go.
We will return after these messages.
Would you take a spin in this taxi? Sure! Whoa! The Incredible Crash Dummies are having a tailgate party?
Whoops! I'll smash their fun! Gotta run!
With the evil Junkman in hot pursuit, the Dummies stop for a break.
Break? Where's the brakes? There aren't any! Whoa!
The Incredible Crash Dummies!
Good crash!
New Crash Cab vehicles and figures all sold separately.
Don't you be a dummy! Buckle your safety belt!
Our third vehicle comes from a very popular video game franchise, and in 1995, Bandai released figures for it. It was Mega Man, and these are awesome looking action figures, and within the line there was only one sole vehicle, the Air Raider. Now, the Air Raider was the perfect vehicle for the superhero of the 21st century to ride around in style. It had a trigger mechanism that could move the propeller, and it had these launchable missiles that, yeah, with how these are made, no one is going to lose an eye. I mean, these are big, round, chunky missiles, and I don't really understand why. You would think within the realm of Mega Man, they could make these little missiles look like energy blasts or something. Anyway, I really dig the colors of the Air Raider, but it's a pretty simplistic little vehicle. I mean, it's simple enough that it only has one seat available. And you know Mega Man doesn't really need it because he rides around on Rush, his dog. So maybe this is just what he, rides to the grocery store in, and, he can put his groceries in the trunk of it, or maybe go out on a date. Well, you can't, it's one seat. Okay, maybe that's his plan. Anyway, this is a pretty cool little vehicle. I don't know if it's based on the cartoon or just solely a creation of the video game franchise world that was created by Capcom. I'm not sure. Either way, it's a neat little vehicle, but those Mega Man figures were awesome, and I would love to get a couple of them in my collection. But anyway, let's get to the next vehicle. Our fourth vehicle comes from another toy line that definitely sailed under my radar. And it was based on a cartoon that I was very well aware of, but I don't think I ever watched. It came from the Biker Mice from Mars, and this was released in 1995 by Galoob. Now I have to say, until I started compiling all of this research on 90s toys, I had no idea how large the appeal of the Biker Mice from Mars was. I mean, so much in fact that there are so many knockoffs. I'm not even saying homages or inspirations like usual. These are just out and out knockoff, rip-off toys. And it amazes me. I didn't think it was that popular, but if somebody's going through the trouble of mass producing knockoffs of it, it must have quite a following. Anyway, the vehicle that we are talking about is the Jail Cruiser. And this is a pretty neat, like, motorcycle with 3 different transformations, if you will. First, it has like a flatbed on the back. And you know what? I'm going to take a look at the back of the packaging because it's got some interesting little notes on, you know, the details that would only function in your imagination. And I love that they took the time to put little names to these gadgets that you can't really play with. You can only imagine that you're playing with them in your, you know, Biker Mice playtime adventure. So here they are. The first form is kind of a flatbed trike motorcycle. Okay, this says it has a monotread cruiser in the front, and it has sonic stabilizer handlebars. That sounds quite fancy. So then it transforms into not just a flatbed, but one that has a front to it that sets up, and it can be a bike transport. So whatever Biker Mouse dude is driving this motorcycle, he can haul his normal ride in the back. And it says it has firing rocket guns. That's cool. It also has ionizer battle shield. That's what they're calling that thing that you set up that stabilizes your bike. At least that's what I thought it was. So its third transformation is the actual jail aspect of the Jail Cruiser, because the rest of the flatbed folds up into a jail cell. And the notes that it has for that is secret trapdoor to hide Biker Hero. And it also has a loading ramp that's tailgate that goes down, and it says it closes automatically. That's pretty cool. Then it also says it has a secret button that closes the tailgate automatically. Okay. And it has strong prison walls. These are all great little details. Like I said, some of them are functional, but a lot of them are just things in your imagination, like the handlebars. I mean, some kid's going to be like, oh, these are sonic stabilizer handlebars, and they're going to have an awesome time with that. In their mind, of course. I mean, I don't think the handlebars do anything special, but it sounds nice. Anyway, like I said, this toy line definitely sailed under my radar in 1995. I mean, I was out in the world, paying bills, working, all that stupid adult junk. So, unfortunately, I didn't have time to focus on the cartoon and be inspired to want the toys. But, like I said, I was floored at how popular I'm perceiving the Biker Mice from Mars were. I mean, so it's very impressive that this, like, upstart toy line / cartoon series really had a strong following. So, big props to that. Anyway, I uncovered a commercial for this Jail Cruiser. It's in Spanish, but you'll get the point of how awesome it was.
We will return after these messages.
Biker Mice från Mars patrullerar i deras nya Jail Cruiser. Oj, Plutarkion har fångat Modo. Bara Jail Cruiser kan rädda honom. Den förvandlas till en stridsvagn. Upp med stridsskölden. Nu ska de få eld. Nu blir det till ett fängelse, så får ni skaka galler rätt åt er. Hjälp till att fånga de elaka Plutarkionerna. Hämta en tävlingsbroschyr i din leksaksaffär.
Our last rad ride for this episode comes from a toy line from Mattel that I think was heavily inspired by Street Sharks and the popularity that they were garnering at the time. This toy line was released in 1996, and it is the Extreme Dinosaurs. The vehicle is the Bite Fighter. Now, at first glance, the Bite Fighter, it looks pretty cool. This packaging artwork makes it look extremely awesome. This is great artwork. This takes me back to the 80s, where there was a great emphasis put on package design. And yeah, I love this artwork. But the Bite Fighter has a lot going for it. I'm going to read what's on the back of the packaging, and we'll take a look at the awesome play features that it had. So first off, beware of the Bite Fighter. Get ready for an arsenal attack with this ultimate raptor destroyer. Hidden inside its ferocious jaws is a terrifying cannon, powerful enough to blast the evil raptors back to the Ice Age. This prehistoric, futuristic fighter features 2 battle modes, Sky Strike and Ground Attack. So whether it's city combat or jungle assault, the Bite Fighter will annihilate the enemy every time. So one of the awesome play features that this had was a hidden toothy maw that would open up on the front of the Bite Fighter, which makes its name more apropos. With dinosaurs piloting it, that makes it a little appropriate, but the thing's got a big mouth, and it likes to take a bite out of the bad guys, apparently. So inside of that mouth is, as it says, a jaw cannon. If you squeeze the pistol grip trigger at the top, it'll reveal the hidden jaw cannon and fire a mega missile. Sign me up. That just sounds awesome. As a kid, as an adult, mega missile, yeah, I'm there. So on top of that, it has dual rocket launchers, fighter wings, the Power Bite jaws, the jaw cannon that we mentioned, and the mega missile. That's pretty cool. Now, the figures, which I think were heavily inspired by Street Sharks and the popularity that they were garnering at the time, everyone was coming up with these super deformed beasts. You had these, the Extreme Dinosaurs, and there were also these dog ones that I can't remember the name of, but all kind of fall into the mold that the Street Sharks created. So, big props to Street Sharks. Again, another toy line of the 90s that I missed out on, and I kind of regret not having a piece of that action because they're pretty awesome looking, and they would look great displayed on a shelf. Anyway, folks, that was just a random sampling of 5 radical rides in 90s action figures. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am just dipping my toe into the 90s pool, and at some points I feel very lost because I don't have a hands-on grip of it like I do 80s toys. And as much as I am floundering a little bit with it, I am enjoying it so much because, yeah, there were some pretty awesome things in the 90s that I definitely missed out on, and I am having a blast researching them. And I hope you are enjoying it as well. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everyone. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this or any of the other episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad and stay dorky.